Before the world was layered with the sound of the minaret, the streets of Medina were filled with a tension that has been forgotten by history. The believers had the message, and they had the mosque, but they were missing the signal. They stood at a critical crossroads, searching for a way to mark the passage of time that didn't belong to the traditions of the past. Some suggested the fire of the Zoroastrians. Others proposed the heavy clanging of the Christian bell, or the sharp blast of the Jewish horn. But the prophet, peace be upon him, was uneasy. He wasn't looking for a tool or a ritual. He was looking for a sound that didn't originate from a piece of wood, metal, or flame. He was searching for a frequency that would do more than just call people to a building. He wanted a sound that would claim the very oxygen they breathed for the Creator. A sound that was purely, uniquely human. We are taught that the Adhan is a notification, a clock, a ritual. But the scholars of the past saw it as something far more profound. They called it the slogan of Islam. It is a legislative miracle that did not descend through a traditional angel, but was woven into the collective consciousness of the Sahaba through their dreams. It is a mystery rarely highlighted. Why did Allah choose the dream of a companion over a direct revelation to the Prophet? Today, we decode 5 secrets of the Adhan that you didn't learn in madrasah. We are moving past the ritual to look at the engineering of the call. Find out why the human breath was chosen to defeat the instrument. How these specific words bypass the earth to arrive from the unseen. Why the signal must begin with the phrase that stabilizes the atmosphere. How these 3 minutes serve as a high-speed summary of the entire religion. Why your spirit stirs the moment the mu'adhin calls, even when your body is exhausted. If you have ever wondered why the air feels different the moment the first takbir hits the sky, this is why. Most religions use objects to signal the divine. They use the cold strike of metal, the hollow echo of wood, or the flickering of fire. Islam rejected them all. But the human voice wasn't just a stylistic choice. It was a declaration of the precedence of the human spirit. A bell is a dead object, and a horn is a hollow shell. They are mechanical and cold. But the human voice? It carries the soul. It is the only instrument that can bridge the gap between the physical lungs and the celestial realm. Think of the difference between the jarring ring of an alarm clock and the soft call of a mother's voice. One triggers a survival reflex. The other triggers an emotional awakening. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, chose Bilal, he wasn't just looking for volume. He was choosing the most sophisticated technology ever created. The human vocal cord, vibrating with intention and belief. This provides a profound emotional anchor. It reminds you that you are not a cog in a mechanical universe. Your relationship with the Creator is not triggered by a gear or a spring, but by a living invitation. It values your humanity over your utility. The call to prayer doesn't just tell you the time, it recognizes your existence. But where did these specific words come from? The answer lies in a realm far above the clouds of Medina. The common story we are told is that the Adhan originated from the dream of a companion whose identity most don't know. While historically true, there is a deeper, more celestial layer to this discovery. In the early days of Medina, the companions were desperate for a way to gather. In a famous gathering, the Prophet, peace be upon him, consulted them on a signal. One suggested a fire like the Zoroastrians, but the Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, "That is for the Magians." Another suggested the horn, and he said, "That is for the Jews." A third suggested the bell, and he said, "That is for the Christians." He was looking for something that hadn't been claimed by the world. That night, Abdullah ibn Zayd had a vision. He saw a man dressed in green carrying a bell. Abdullah asked to buy it to call people to prayer, but the man replied, "Shall I not tell you of something better than that?" He then recited the words of the Adhan we hear today. When Abdullah rushed to the Prophet, peace be upon him, the next morning to narrate the dream, the Prophet, peace be upon him, confirmed its truth, saying, "It is a true vision, insha'Allah." But here is the hidden wisdom. Scholars have noted that these exact words were actually heard by the Prophet, peace be upon him, years earlier, during the Isra wal-Mi'raj, the night journey, spoken by the angels in the highest heavens. Think of a king who has a secret anthem for his kingdom, but he waits for his people to discover it themselves, so they feel a sense of ownership. Allah allowed the companions to dream the words that were already the soundtrack of the seventh heaven. The emotional weight of this is staggering. When you hear the Adhan, you aren't just hearing a local announcement or a man shouting from a tower. You are hearing a celestial echo. It is a frequency that aligns your home with the vibrations of the throne of God. It is a reminder that even when you are standing in a small room on a tiny planet, you belong to a kingdom far larger than this world. And this celestial frequency has a very specific, terrifying effect on the forces of darkness. The reveal here is that the Adhan is not just a reminder of time, it is a cleansing agent. It is what scholars call the identity of the air. In the hierarchy of faith, the call to prayer is classified as a sha'air, a public sacred rite. It sits on the same elite level as the Kaaba in Makkah, the hills of Safa and Marwa, or the sacrifice of Eid. These are not just rituals, they are the physical landmarks of God on earth. In the prophetic tradition, the Adhan was the definitive test of a territory's safety. If the call was heard, the land was considered a sanctuary. This is because the Adhan has a physical effect on the unseen. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught that when it is called, the devil flees so far and with such speed that he cannot even hear the vibration of the sound. This is why your attention at this moment is so critical. We often feel a heaviness in our homes, unexplained stress, recurring arguments, or a lingering sense of unease. This is the clutter of the unseen. When you stop what you are doing to listen attentively, or when you stand up to give the azan yourself in your place of prayer, you are performing a spiritual fumigation. You are issuing an eviction notice to every whisper of despair and every negative energy occupying your space. Even if you aren't in a masjid, calling the Adhan where you pray reclaims that ground for the divine. It transforms a common room into a sanctuary. It isn't just a signal to start your prayer. It is the moment you recalibrate the atmosphere of your life, clearing the static so your heart can finally breathe. But out of all of the words, why does the Adhan begin with Allah is the greatest? The fourth secret lies in the specific opening code of the call. Have you ever wondered why the Adhan must begin with the words Allahu Akbar? It is the only phrase powerful enough to act as the universal anchor for the human psyche. In the science of the soul, we recognize that our biggest struggle isn't a lack of faith, it's a lack of perspective. We get swallowed by the heat of our problems. We feel that our boss's anger, our mounting debt, or our health crisis is the largest thing in our universe. If the Adhan started with a call to humility or a mention of mercy, it might be too soft to break the trance of our stress. But instead, it hits the air with a fourfold declaration. Allah is greater. As scholars have noted, this doesn't just mean God is great in a general sense. It means Allah is greater than whatever is occupying your mind at this exact second. If you are worried about a meeting, Allah is greater than that meeting. If you are drowning in grief, Allah is greater than that grief. The Takbir is designed to act as a cognitive disruptor. It reaches into the chaotic static of your day and forcefully resets your internal hierarchy. When those first two words ripple through the air, they serve as a physical anchor. They stabilize the atmosphere of your heart, pinning it back to reality. It is a reminder that the world is small, your problems are temporary, and the one who created the stars is currently inviting you to speak with him. If the opening words are so powerful, what do we know about the rest of the call? The final secret is perhaps the most profound. The Adhan is not just a call. It is a high-speed data compression of the entire Islamic faith. In less than 3 minutes, the Mu'adhin broadcasts the complete architecture of a believer's worldview. It begins with the theology of greatness, establishing who is in charge. It moves immediately to the theology of oneness, defining that Allah is only one. It then introduces the theology of connection, identifying the human bridge, the final prophet, through which we find our way. But notice the pivot. It doesn't stop at belief. It shifts into the theology of action. The call to the prayer and the call to the result, success, both in this world and the next. This is the summary of everything. If you were stranded on a desert island and all you had was the Adhan, you would have the entire blueprint of Islam. It reminds you who God is, who you are, and exactly what you need to do to win. It is a 3-minute spiritual reset that ensures, no matter how far you drift during the day, you are brought back to the core frequency of the truth. When the call ends, there is no God but Allah. It seals the code. You started with His greatness, and you end with His oneness. The circle is complete. You are no longer just a person standing in a room. You are a person realigned with the pulse of the universe. Think about the moment Bilal stood on that rooftop. A former slave whose voice was once suppressed by the weight of a stone on his chest was now the man who commanded the attention of the entire city. He didn't use a bell. He didn't use a fire. He used his breath, the very breath that his masters tried to take from him. The Adhan is a victory of the soul over matter. It is a reminder that no matter how loud the world gets, no matter how much noise there is in your life, there is a frequency that can cut through it all. Tonight, when the sun sets, ask yourself, is your home filled with the noise of the world or the identity of the air?